It's Wednesday, August 28th, 2019. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we'll be covering on today's episode. There are a lot of smartwatches out there for you to choose from, but Fitbit is now stepping its game up with the new Versa 2 with some new features that we'll let you know about. And Microsoft has announced that they will be having an event in New York City on October 2nd, and rumors are running rampant about the possibility of the mythical Centaurus Surface being revealed. And one of our guests today will be Steve Potash, the president and CEO of Sora by Rakuten Overdrive, a company designed to empower students and educators with access to reading materials. And working from home may be taking on a whole new aspect with the new Double 3 telepresence robot, an updated version to the previous one. It doesn't have arms, but I bet if you run it into a door long enough, someone will open it for you. All that and more coming up on today's Digital Trends Live. There it is, Portland, Oregon, full of, it's beautiful out right now, also
Gorgeous.
full of everything that I'm allergic to, all of that.
Really? Right
All
now?
of it, right
Late
now.
in the summer?
Yeah, apparently. I found out today.
So it's not such a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
I mean, it's beautiful to look at, but I am from indoors.
Oh.
That's where I'm going to be, I think.
It's kind of, you know what, that's a great segue into that little cart.
It is.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a minute. We'll tell you more about being indoors in just a second.
Does it have a HEPA filter?
Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. This is our daily show here from Digital Trends, bringing you the trending tech topics of the day, news, interviews, headlines, discussions, and so much more, while broadcasting live across a number of different platforms. We're on Periscope, Twitter, Twitch. We're on LinkedIn Live, YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Dailymotion. We're on Apple News, 2 different mobile apps. We're on a smart television app, and we're at digitaltrends.com/live, and probably more places. So wherever you're finding us, hit that subscribe button. That way you can interact with us throughout the show, drop in your comments, your questions as we go through. We always appreciate that. But to start the show off, I'm Greg Nibbler, joined by Mr. Dan Gall. Hello, Dan.
Hello. How are you?
Doing well.
Great. Well, are you really doing that?
Well, no, I am doing well. I just had to make a note of the fact that it's full of allergy out there.
Did you take some allergy meds?
No, I forgot it.
Okay,
So,
good. I was
yep.
worried you might fall asleep.
Yes, no worries about that. I will be here the entire show. All right, let's get on to some tech news, some trending tech headlines that are happening today. And one is this. It seems a lot of people are very interested in the newest offer from Fitbit. So the Fitbit Versa 2, which is their smartwatch, came out today with a couple of key features that step it up, not quite to an Apple Watch level, I would say, on the smartwatch side, but it's definitely a vast improvement over what they had before.
I agree. And so one of the key features is now that it's offering like guided like workouts and things like that.
Yeah.
That's something that Ian and I have been saying for a long time is, these fitness devices, watches, etc. Like, they're nice as a generic thing, like maybe to keep track of your own personal goals, but they really won't have a meaningful impact until you can have customized workouts that tell you specifically what you need to work on, not what the general populace, like just time tracking or doing whatever, right?
Right.
And it seems like they're moving in that direction, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, it's a service called Fitbit Premium is what it is. It's $10 a month or $80 annually, so it's not that bad. When you think about this, and it'll provide, customized options for you for working out.
Yeah, I think it's key for there's a lot of people that benefit from doing just maybe cardio versus weight training. Maybe you have diabetes or a heart condition that you're trying to lose weight over, whatever that is. I think it's key when they can start doing personalized workouts for you.
Steven is asking, I'm about to buy an Apple Watch. Should I wait? I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily on that, although you might want to wait just for the Apple event, which is coming up in maybe a couple of weeks. We're thinking September 10th, just to see what they announce in association with that. That would probably be a good point to wait and then make your evaluation.
I think it also depends on what you want a wearable for.
Yeah.
Because Apple Watch, you can get the whole cellular built into it, which is meaningful because then you don't have to carry around your phone when you work out, you go for a run, GPS is built into it, etc. That's why I bought one was...
The Apple Watch?
Yeah, I bought an Apple Watch with GPS and cellular because I wanted to be able to receive cell phone calls, emails, alerts while I'm out working out and also be able to track like my personal stuff. So if I'm on a bike ride or a run or anything like that, I know how far I went, what my pace was, et cetera, while I'm doing it, right?
Yeah, get those constant updates. I mean, the Apple Watch I think largely is considered to be the top of the game. I mean, I think by a lot of people, at least judging by our reviews anyway, just because they've been at the forefront of that for so long. I think it's great to have some more competition. I think this Fitbit one, some of the things they're offering, a couple of other things on this one. It's now going to have Alexa built in, which, if you're an Alexa user, that's great.
You run in, forgot that you needed eggs at the store.
Right. Yeah. I'd probably just set off everybody's devices right now just by saying that anyway. But so it's got that. It's got Spotify control added in there. So some other, nice add-ons that you would expect, I think, from a top end.
The things like Spotify and Pandora, they require like your phone.
So you still have to
be there. Yeah, they're not like doing
not like
that
the
cellular
Apple Watch.
Streaming, right? So
yeah, which is a big difference.
It does store your own music on it, just like the previous version. So
so if you want to download some things ahead of time, you could do that. It's got a Super AMOLED screen, so the screen's going to be really nice, if that matters. I mean, to me, that wouldn't be as big of a deal on something like that.
It helps with battery life and just makes it look better.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to spend the money on it, for sure, yeah.
Actually, I think they say 5-day battery life, which, if that's important to you as well, is much longer than the Apple Watch. By 4 days.
So something else to factor in there. Yep. And this one, it's available for pre-order now from Fitbit's website. It's, $200. Ships on September 15th. So $200, not a bad price.
Great price.
Yeah, I mean, if you're for something with all of these features on it, I think that's pretty good. As long as the thing I would worry about with the AMOLED screen is that I'm going to knock it into something and then crack the screen on it. That would.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there a crystal kind of like?
I'm not sure. And we've got a full review of this at Digital Trends, and we're going to be getting our hands on. I think it's Julian or somebody's out there that's going to be wearing this and testing it out over the next couple of weeks. But we do have our first look review that's up right now that goes into a lot more detail on specific things. But for the question about whether to buy an Apple Watch, I think Dan said it best. It depends on what you really want to use it for.
And also, do you need the latest one?
Yeah.
Because there's the event happening later this in September, but you can buy a previous gen for a lot cheaper on Amazon or Target or Walmart or something like that. So you can find some good deals on the previous gen.
Yeah, if you're looking for an entry level, something to start out with, then good idea on that. And check out all the reviews at Digital Trends for both the Fitbit and Apple Watch or whatever else you want to take a look at. All the reviews are there. But it is now time for us to take a look at some of your comments. And that is what we do here with Read 'em and Weep, where we go through some of the comments that you have left across our many different platforms, and we respond to them directly to you, making eye contact here every single day. So we'll take a look at some of them. And
that makes it awkward.
Yeah, I know. It just makes it really awkward. David Clark regarding tech briefs. California bill looks to ban facial recognition for law enforcement. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Okay, I'm guessing that's talking about, is that a dig on California? Is that what that's for?
Yep.
Okay, that's what
California banning facial recognition for law enforcement. They don't want the law enforcement to be able to use that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
There was part of this, and Tech Briefs is actually, just for anybody who doesn't know, Tech Briefs is our videocast and podcast that we do with Flipboard every week. So hit subscribe wherever you get podcasts to Tech Briefs. And I know what this is talking about. So there was a study that was done where they ran a bunch of California assemblymen, Congress people, whatever their assembly people are called in California, and they ran them through a software designed to find criminals, a criminal database, and it identified like 25 of them as being criminals.
All right.
Which they weren't anyway.
Taken down.
Yeah,
well, they may be.
They may be. Not convicted. We'll say that they weren't convicted previous, and once that happened, then all of them were like, "Well, this isn't good."
Yeah.
And so they decided to put a ban. What the bill is doing is putting a ban on using it for body cameras, facial recognition for body cameras, until they can really get the facial recognition software up to speed.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. What is that point, though? And actually, this comment is really interesting. Even a broken clock goes right twice a day, which is true if it's a 12-hour clock.
Fact.
But I would love for Eric to tell me what that means in terms of banning facial recognition. So is he saying that it's right some of the time? Like it can be. I mean, obviously, it could be right some of the time, not 100%. Yeah.
Oh, Eric, it's being noted to me that they're saying that they're talking about me for that segment. Eric, whatever it is, I want you to figure it out. You write in here. You let us know. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. All right. Well, thank you, Eric, wherever you are. All right. Oh, okay. We're getting personal here. Miranda Miranda, regarding Vizio P Series Quantum X unboxing basic setup, big, bright, and bold. Caleb is just a crybaby. All right.
Well, cry baby, cry baby, cry baby, cry baby.
There we go. I wanted to make sure that Dan could do that. I didn't want to take that thunder away.
I feel like I should have danced.
We did talk about how we needed more singing on the show. So.
I feel like I should have looked in your eye saying that.
I'm not sure what he was a crybaby about. It sounds like he actually liked that television. Big, bright, and bold. That all sounds like good things.
Sounds like a wine.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Caleb. I mean, we'll certainly bring this up to Caleb. We'll bring this up in a meeting.
You
Caleb.
you got to sing it to him.
Miranda says you're a crybaby, cry.
Well, yes. We can do a duet.
That's all right. Okay, I could get along with that. All right, Vladimir, regarding time lapse of a Tesla Model 3 assembly, 40 steps in 90 minutes. $500 a minute feels about right. I think it'd be more than $500 a minute probably at that point. Well, 45 grand. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose you can get in one for that.
There's a lot of things way more expensive than that.
Yeah,
per minute.
That is true.
That's. I almost hit a Tesla Model 3 today. Pulled right out in front of me while I was going 55 on the freeway.
Was it on auto drive or?
I don't think so. They were in a. Yeah. I had to lay on my horn for two seconds.
Well, then yeah. So Tesla, think about that for a while.
Yeah. Don't let people merge at 5 miles an hour into a 60-mile-per-hour lane.
I think that's just Portland drivers. I think that's a big problem there. Juan Garcia of DTES. Regarding Beyond Fried Chicken in one location, Digital Trends was there to taste it. I will volunteer to find and compare it with the Popeyes chicken sandwich. It won't be an easy journey, but someone must take it. See, that's the sacrifice that everybody here at Digital Trends will make for everyone out there. And that's Juan Garcia of Digital Trends ES. Willing to do that.
You know, Juan offering himself for a thankless job. It's very commendable.
Yeah, it really is.
We appreciate you for that.
Well, I mean, he clearly would hate this job, but he would do it just to help everyone out.
It's a lot of effort to find that Popeyes fried chicken.
Yeah, from what I understand, yes.
I think they announced it today that they're temporarily taking it off the menu.
Wow.
Yes.
Now I really want one. Now that I know that I can't get one, I want one.
So instead of read 'em and weep, that's a hear it and weep because I just told you.
Well, just know that Juan is out there somewhere now searching the countryside, trying to find
both
a Popeyes chicken sandwich.
One might get really cold before he finds the other.
Yeah, but that's what he's willing to do. So thank you, Juan, for your service to that. Mike, regarding SpaceX's levitating Starhopper rocket stuck the landing in its latest test. We'll be talking a little bit more about this later on in the show. This has got to be the ugliest oil can space vehicle since the early days of Hollywood space movies. It looks like a rocket shot into the eye of a cartoon version of the moon made of cheese. You know?
That's true.
You're kind of right.
Yeah. But, you know what's awesome that makes up for it is Starhopper. What a cool name
That
for
name
a ship.
is great.
Yes.
It sounds like it could be in Battlestar Galactica. But Mike, you are right. It does kind of look like that. Now that you described it that way, oh, yep. Looks like an old,
you feel sorry
40s
for
movie. It's Elon Musk, man. That's what he's going to do. You don't have any choice.
Lost in space.
Oh, I so want you to be the voice of that.
Yes.
Hello. Welcome to Starhopper. All right. I know we need to talk about some more trending news. We have a lot to get to, but I do want to remind everybody of something here at Digital Trends. Labor Day is coming up. And, there's a lot of great sales that are going on for Labor Day, whether it's mattresses, clothing, outdoor gear, tech gear, all of that is happening. And since we do have such a great staff of editors, they scour the internet for you and find you some of the best deals. And we have a special guide up right now for that. So it's our Labor Day sales guide. We've got their best Labor Day deals, so it's a whole page dedicated to Digital Trends, and there's a lot of companies offering some great discounts during this time, so I want to remind everybody of that, and we'll be telling you more about it during the week leading up to Labor Day, but it's a great time to find some deals, and that's why we put this page up, so go there, digitaltrends.com, you can take a look at it, best Labor Day sales page, and find out everything that's going on, all the best deals, places like Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, all of that will be letting you know what the good deals are. So check that out. Best Labor Day deals right there at digitaltrends.com. And let's talk about some other things in tech right now. This is an announcement that came out from Microsoft, a media invite for an event that's going to be happening on October 2nd. And there's some speculation about what they could be announcing.
God, it feels so far away. We have to talk about October
I
already?
know. Might as well get into Christmas.
I feel like we haven't got summer yet. So
I agree. But it's not that far. It's just a little over a month.
No.
Well, ignoring the date.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what they could be announcing, and we're expecting that it's probably going to be some new Surface line, something new to the Surface lineup, probably. I would
Yeah,
assume.
they're saying like some dual display.
Yeah, there's
Surface.
This is the one that they've been, and there's some kind of renderings of what it could look like. It's called the Centaurus, has always been what it's called as far as the naming. We don't know if that's what the actual name will end up being.
Kind of a cool name again.
Yeah, the Centaurus is pretty cool. I like that name.
Yeah.
But that's the dual-screened Surface laptop that we think could be finally coming out. Whether that's going to be like a foldable screen, I don't know about that. I mean, possibly.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
The picture we have up on the site is actually really interesting because it doesn't have a mechanical keyboard. The keyboard's on the display itself, which I personally would hate, but it's really interesting to see how maybe these are progressing into something like that.
I mean, I'm with you. I like a physical keyboard just to type on. I don't prefer to do it on more, just a straight up screen. But if the haptic feedback were to get good enough, were to be at least advanced enough to where it felt like you were typing on a screen or on a real keyboard, then I could get used to it.
I feel around like I like the feeling, like how many times I make typos on my phone right now, and that's just with 2 fingers, let alone 10.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious for everybody out there too. Is that something that you're used to, or would you prefer just getting rid of a standard keyboard altogether, just having it all on a screen? Because that's a fair point. I mean, sometimes it feels like manufacturers will just start doing something because no, we can do it.
Yeah.
This is what everybody must want.
Yeah.
But is it what everybody wants?
Well, Microsoft's notorious for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like here you go.
Yeah.
Here's how this works.
We
now.
created this great thing.
Yeah.
Let's see how it does. Also interesting is the Windows Core OS, which they're saying that this Surface might have the new version of Windows. So I'm really curious about that as well.
Yeah, and we've got actually Julian Chikati was on the show just the other day. And I believe it was Julian that was talking about this, about some of the Windows aspects. But there's the Windows Core OS. We have actually it was Luke Larson, excuse me. Windows Core OS. We have an article up at Digital Trends where you can take a look at that and kind of take a look at what we think may be coming out with it. There's been some beta versions that are out there, and just getting an idea. But that would be something that would be big if that were announced, or at least with this new Surface lineup came with that. That would be an interesting development. And just what other kinds of laptops are outside of the other ones.
See like new Xbox information.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be great. I mean,
that would be cool.
I'm really curious, like how many people that are watching this what they would be excited about from a Microsoft announcement. Is it a Surface? Is it Windows? Is it, I think Xbox probably is a big thing, right?
Xbox would be big. I mean, PlayStation 5 has made, PlayStation's made announcements about the PS5. They've given more details, I feel like, than Microsoft has given.
Yeah.
And whether the Xbox is going to be, getting rid of the disc altogether, whether it's just going to be streaming and downloading, or whether they're going to maintain the disc, whether you have backward compatibility, and when it's even going to come out. Because I bet they'll time it around the PS5.
They got to.
I mean, otherwise you're dead in the water there. And they've been buying up a bunch of different game developers as well, just like PlayStation has, like Sony has. Yeah, you're right. That would be a great announcement. We don't know if that's what's going to happen. That's what we know so far, and this was just announced. So I'm sure there'll be some things rolling out. We'll get more speculation as we go on, but you can stay up to date at digitaltrends.com. All right, let's talk about Facebook. Shocking, Facebook is in the news again. And this is about something that they're trying to do to rectify some of their past issues. And I'm just going to explain what it is, and then we're going to talk about what that means, and I want to know what everybody out there thinks about this too. So this is an announcement that they did in regards to political ads in particular. That's the part that we're going to talk about, political ads coming up. And they're going to, ahead of this 2020 election, they're going to change their ad policy, requiring new disclosures on who is running advertisements on their platform so that you can see where that advertisement is coming from, but also they're going to make sure that people who are doing political ads have to verify that they come from a confirmed organization. They have to provide some kind of tax-registered organization identification number or a government website domain. They have to have some kind of credentials. So they're going to really make people put in more information, even up to the point where a phone number, business email, or a mail deliverable address. And that's in order to verify where some of these ads are coming from. That's what they're saying.
Yeah. I mean, there's such a huge problem with Facebook and ads, even on like actually social media ads in general, I think,
Yeah.
because people don't realize they're being targeted by political ads. They're being targeted specifically where they live, what their political affiliation is,
All of that
all
data
these
they've
things to try to influence their thinking.
Yeah.
And it's actually really scary stuff. And in a lot of countries, it's illegal because people don't realize that they're politically motivated ads, right?
Right.
So I think this is a step in the right direction. But I think honestly, like, if someone wants to put up an ad or what looks like a post that they want to have it shared around, and people don't realize that it's a politically motivated ad post coming from some,
Right.
some organization.
Yeah.
I'm still pretty sure they'll probably be able to hide themselves pretty easily.
Yeah, they'll probably figure out ways, and that's one thing always with Facebook. They roll this out. They're saying, this sounds like you said, a step in the right direction, but how is it going to be implemented? How are they going to really monitor this? Are they going to monitor every single ad that comes through and make sure that all of those addresses and things they put in are legitimate?
No.
I don't know.
And
I don't know how they could.
Well, I mean, like, if someone decides to go this route, then yeah, I can see that. It's kind of like, if you decide to follow the rules, then
Right.
it's probably going to work in that situation. But I'm sure there's ways to game it.
Oh yeah, just make it more of a personal, or they could set up as a business. And
I mean, they're gaming it now.
Around,
I mean, all you got to do is pretend like you're a person putting up an ad, right? Like, how are they going to verify that?
Yeah.
You are. I mean, there's so many fake people on Facebook, right?
Right.
So, like,
fake people and fake groups.
Yeah.
And, I mean, all kinds of things that are out there, and just to manipulate. And obviously, we know what happened with the last election. Just how, and this is regardless of your political side, people are trying to influence you.
100%.
And
it's happening right now. I mean,
It's-
it's not even like an election cycle issue. It's just people trying to stir up
Yep.
and change others' opinions on, or not even change them, just influence people's opinions.
Influence them one way or another too, to make decisions one
Yeah.
way or another. I mean, that's
I think the key thing is on false information.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, right? Like, it's so hard for people nowadays to tell whether something's true or not.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's just it just. I think that is honestly, if you look back at like Steve Wozniak and why he said like people should just get off Facebook, like it's just not good for you. And I think it's because people don't realize, even myself, right?
Yeah.
When you're being influenced in a way that is with untrue information, like you just got to do so much more work on anything that people say to verify and think for yourself, right? Like,
yeah, which is true. I mean, bringing it up, talking about yourself being influenced. I mean, it's true. We're all probably influenced by something on there that we just take a glance at, but then it sticks with you, and you don't realize that what you're reading could be false information. And they do. They need to do a better job of this. I know one of the other things they're going to be doing is for the news curation, they're going to have better ways to verify that they're legitimate sources for part of their news feed. I think what you were saying before, there's still ways around that.
Oh yeah. I mean, you'll see every now and then, like, a little like, who is this link or whatever it is. But again, if for example, I dig up a video on YouTube because I'm, looking at some, channel on there, and I post it onto Facebook, I'm not having that flagged on my post, right?
No.
So like, again, if I have, I'm an organization that has some nefarious, I want to sway people's minds around something that I'm going to be doing, or, I have some foresight ahead of time, and I'm going to do a social media campaign using all these fake profiles or something like that.
Yeah.
And, and I target those posts because I can, I can pay to get my post exposure, right? So,
yeah,
I don't know. I think it's just, there's a long ways to go.
We'll see where it goes.
Noodle fest.
But that's what's going on with Facebook. One final thing, I know because we're starting to run out of time, because we have to get our guest on. This is coming from Sony and Yamaha, going a different direction here. So
Yay.
is partnering up with what they're calling the sociable cart. So this cart, it's a self-driving cart that's going to be debuting in theme parks and they're looking at like theme parks and golf courses where you would be able to ride around in this. This is one of their prototypes right here, and it would have screens all over the outside of it. And then on the inside, you would have augmented reality windows. So you'd be riding along in the safety of your cart, and you would be able to see outside and have different things overlaid over the screens. So I think it's.
Does it have HEPA filter though?
I don't know. That's the main thing. That's the main thing we need to find out.
It looks open right there, like the doors are open and.
The doors are open, and if to get inside, and even by the one that they actually are putting out, it's very similar to this one. This is the only videos they have of one of their prototypes. But that's how it would work. So you're looking outside there, you can see different things overlaid.
Great for theme parks, like
yeah, theme parks
got AC. Yeah, I totally get it. Golf courses doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense
at all. It's so cute though. It looks like a toaster.
I do want to write. Maybe we need to get one for the office.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe a miniature one.
Yes,
just fits one person.
Yep, I like it. Yeah, we'll have augmented reality laid over the entire office.
I think it's cool looking. I don't know. Again, this goes back to why. Like, what's the bigger goal here? Because even in a theme park, you have so many people. How many of these you maybe only make like a few available for people that are willing to pay for them or something?
Yeah.
And it's like, can you mess with them in the theme park? Like,
I'm
gonna get in your way. I'm gonna get in your way. Get in your way.
Come at me, bro.
Yeah.
Well, you can check that out. We've got a write-up about that at digitaltrends.com, just like everything else that we covered today. I know we need to get to our break. Dan, as always, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We got really serious there.
We got real serious. Let's have some fun.
I was crying while looking in his eyes.
It is true, and it wasn't just read 'em and weep this time. We got Drew Prindle, who's going to be joining us here in a little bit, talking about new ways, actually, that advertisers are trying to advertise to you. Pretty amazing stuff. We're going to discuss that. Coming up next, though, we've got an interview. We're going to be joined by Rehan Jalil from Security.ai. He's the founder and CEO, and that's a cybersecurity firm that builds automation and AI products for the enterprise. And we're going to be talking about the California Consumer Privacy Act. You've probably seen that out there somewhere. We're going to talk about what that is, how it's going to affect you, and some of the benefits and maybe detractions from it. All of that is coming up here on Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thank you everyone for joining us. Hit that subscribe button to make sure you get the notifications when we do go live. And right now, we're going to have a discussion about privacy and security, about our data, and in particular as well, go into what this is with the California, I want to make sure that I'm getting it right too, the CCPA, which you've probably seen those that acronym places, the California Consumer Privacy Act. We're going to talk about what that is and how it's going to affect you and us. And right now, we've got an expert joining us, absolutely, who's Rehan Jalil from Security.ai, the founder and CEO. Hello, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for hosting.
This is a great discussion that I'm looking forward to having here. And for everybody watching, can we get a little bit of a background for yourself and what Security.ai does, and then get into some of these particulars?
Yeah, our core mission is to have the companies to be good custodians of people's data. And that's what CCPA and some of these new regulations are trying to do. We are a company based in Silicon Valley. And introducing something new which will enable companies to be better custodians of people's data and enable people to exercise their rights that these privacy regulations are giving to them.
Which is so important. I mean, I think more and more people are aware of just how much data that we're giving out, that you give out if you're on a social media platform or any kind of platform where you're giving data. Companies are using that, they're monetizing it, and it is important to know how it's being utilized and what some of the protections are. So getting into this CCPA, can we walk through a basic explainer of what that is, and then maybe get into some of the actual specific effects that it'll have?
Essentially, this regulation, it actually gives the rights to the people on their data. If it's your data that you've given to a company directly or indirectly, then you essentially you are still the property owner in some ways, and you can go back to a company and ask that this data be deleted, or they stop selling this data to other companies, or you want to just know what kind of data they have about yourself. That's the most fundamental rights that these regulations are actually giving to the people. On the other hand, from the enterprises and companies, it just actually encourages them and in fact, forces them to be better custodians of people's data. Also, the California Consumer Protection Act is not only about the companies in California. It is actually has a broad implication of any company that is doing business with consumers in California. The company could be headquartered anywhere, which means that it has a very broad implications. And I think the one way for you to think about is that whenever there is some kind of a misuse of data, currently people don't have rights. Even in the case of Face app scandal that happened, people just couldn't really go and force their data to be deleted or pictures be deleted. Certain regulations like CCPA will give you and me and other people rights to go ask companies which we suspect are not using the data correctly to go ahead and delete our data.
Go ahead.
And what does it really require is that on the company side, it now requires new kind of software, intelligence, and technology to even understand that what kind of data they actually have about people. Because often these companies are large companies, they have a lot of different, thousands of systems in many cases, and hundreds of different groups that are working on people's data. And I think it requires new kind of intelligence and automation inside these companies, kind of more like a privacy ops kind of things that is going to be needed by the companies.
Which is huge. I think that there's a couple of points here that I want to talk about with what you brought up. I mean, one being that California, anybody who's a consumer in California, well, California is huge. I mean, there's so many people, which it means virtually any company that's online is going to have some interaction probably with somebody from California. I mean, in some way, shape, or form. So that's everybody has to pay attention to this. And I feel like what are the ramifications, I guess, for people that are outside of California? Will we see some of the benefits of this? And how would that specific interaction work? Like if you go to a website, you can just write them and say, hey, delete all my data?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first, these companies doesn't only have to be online. You don't have to be a web company, because even if let's say a travel company, essentially your business is not necessarily web services, but you're collecting people's data, and you directly or indirectly may be sharing this data with others, and people may actually want to actually exercise those rights on companies which are not even just web companies. So it's kind of broad implication, I would say. By some estimates, close to 500,000 companies would need to comply with CCPA. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
The second is the companies would need to make it easy for consumers to actually exercise their right, which means somebody should be able to go on this company's websites and fill a form and say, show me what data you have about me, or stop selling this data, or just go ahead and simply delete the data because I'm kind of moving on to a different service, or I don't want the history to be tracked. And the verticals, it actually, all verticals, think of this way: if we go to a retailer, they have all the data about your purchase history and which store you went to and what you bought. People would have broad rights to actually have that those things on. Same like for travel companies. If you take a ride share with with a travel company or a mobility company, they have all the information about you, where you went, what location, what it is, who you're sitting with. All that information is considered now private information with this act, and people would have a right to go ask, say, first of all, tell me what you have about me, and secondly, if I choose to, I can ask you to go delete it. Now, it is other thing to note is that it is not just nice to do this thing. This regulation actually requires that this thing be done, and it has two kind of enforcement kind of things that will require, I think, companies to actually act. First, there is a penalty of up to $7,500 per incident, and this number can multiply very fast. If you have a million users which have a problem, this could be like $750 million, and it could go in billions. The second thing on the enforcement side is that it allows the class action lawsuits. So if the regulator doesn't have the bandwidth or time and attention, it's almost like crowdsourcing or enforcement through people going ahead and actually making a claim to say, look, my data was misused, and I can go to the court for that. So for that reason, we are seeing that there is certainly it's been taken very seriously. Other than that, I think with these guidelines, what we're seeing is some of the larger companies who actually really care about their brand and who actually really want to be good custodians of people's data. They're acting at a much higher level, not just because of this regulation and what the letter of law says. They're going kind of above and board in providing these rights to the people. It's just good for the brand.
Wow, those are some serious penalties. If they don't comply with this, if they're able to enforce that, that will probably get the attention of every single company in there. $7,500 per person. That's not a drop in the bucket when you talk about, like you said, you have 1 million people's data in there. That's a lot of fine, and that sometimes seems to be what actually gets companies' attention, is when you start affecting that bottom line to get them to enforce that. Well, I'm talking about companies that want to comply, because you're right. There are a lot of companies out there that want to do the right thing. And let's just give everybody an explanation of what security.ai can do to help with that.
Yeah, I think when we looked at this landscape, we realized that previously a lot of compliances were driven more by third-party audits. One-time view in a year, some kind of an audit got done, and it was more driven by manual surveys. Now, with this regulation, because it's the rights on people's data, understanding of people's data and where it is sitting and who does it belong to and how it is getting used is actually the foundation for actually enforcement. It is not about getting some survey and getting an audit check done. It is all about now operationalizing privacy in everything that you do with this data. And also, not only that, how this data is stored and you give it back, do you actually have consent? And the consent really is not about universal use of the data. It actually also about what purpose did you collect this data from? If you looked at some of the companies when they collect phone numbers in the context of doing second factor authentication, you'll see that sometimes these phone numbers get used for marketing purposes and robocalls. So not only that you have to honor and protect and give the data back for the purpose for which the data was collected, you have to actually have honor that for. So first of all, it's the underpinning is full understanding of a person's data, and then there's a stack on top of it, which is operationalizing the privacy inside a company. And there's a whole new domain and movement towards privacy ops. Just like DevOps and SecOps made automation on the sides of development and security, privacy ops is a new big thing. And I bet you in a couple of years, there'll be dedicated positions and roles inside the company for the privacy ops. And that's what we really provide, a framework which gives everything that a company needs to do in one place to comply with CCPA and other global privacy regulations.
Well, it's certainly going to be important with the rollout of this new act from California, and to see how that shakes up. I know it starts on January 1st of 2020 is when we'll start seeing this, and certainly a great educational course that you just provided us, Rian, on this, and I really appreciate you joining us here on the show at security.ai. That's where people can check out everything that you've got going and how companies can work and comply with everything. Thanks so much for being here on Digital Trends Live today.
Thank you so much for hosting. Enjoyed the conversation.
All right, so really fascinating, learning a lot about that. I know we need to get to our break coming up because we have Drew Prindle who's going to join us and talking about advertising and how new forms of advertising are going to be affecting you, because it could get really personal with all of that data that they have out there and maybe even changing the way we watch television and movies. We'll get into it here in just a second, but I want to thank everybody who's watching. Drop in your comments, your questions, whatever you want to bring up. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Digital Trends Live. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate everybody who's joining us in this interactive chat, or however you're finding the show. Hit that subscribe button, that way you get the notifications when we do go live. And I'm Greg Nibbler. Right now, joining me here on the show, it is Mr. Drew Prindle. Hello, Drew.
How's it going?
Doing well. I have been fascinated with this article that's up at Digital Trends right now.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
It is, and we talked about it earlier this week to give everybody just an idea of this. So this is at Digital Trends right now. It's talking about a new way that advertisers could be reaching you. Because as we all know, when you're streaming anything, a lot of times those advertisements could interrupt what you're watching. Mm-hmm. Nobody likes that. But the advertising dollars still need to get spent, and people still need money to make the content. And so there's new ways that are being figured out. And this has to do with, I think it's a company called Riff.
Yeah, RYFF, Riff.
Okay, can you walk us through what exactly this is?
So basically, these guys have figured out a way to insert super photorealistic product placement ads in real time, like directly into whatever you're watching. So traditionally, like product placement, you guys know what it is. You see it in movies that they'll put like, Pepsi cans somewhere, or like
a Whopper or something.
Yeah, or somebody's driving a Lexus or something like that. And companies spend a lot of money for that because they don't want you to like see a commercial and be like, oh, this is obviously an ad. They want you to just like, oh yeah, I want that. I want James Bond's watch or whatever it is.
I was just thinking James Bond, that's always somebody who does that.
There's a ton of product placement in those. But the problem with that is that those ads are kind of like static, right? You can't change them. They can't be personalized for any particular person. So that's what this company is trying to do. They're trying to make ads that they can, like product placement ads that exist inside the content that they can change and target toward different users.
I mean, would take some incredible technology to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's, they're still working on it, obviously. It's not like fully fleshed out yet, but it's crazy. They're using like super advanced graphics. They use this technique called ray tracing, which basically places the object in like a virtual three-dimensional world, and it realistically bounces light off of it, so it really does look like it's in there.
Yeah.
And unless you're like really looking for it, you can't really tell that it's
that it's
that it's a product placement ad.
that is being placed in there. I mean, we even looked at just that video that we just showed, that kind of showcases how that would look. I mean, the potential for that is huge. I mean, if you look at it on a bigger scale, with ray tracing in general, that's going to be utilized in a lot of different things. That's something that's really just rolling out now. You look at it in video games, you look at it in movies, all kinds of things. But the ability to go back through and change that is amazing. In that aspect, how are we looking at it being utilized? I guess in movies, in television, is it going to be something like that? Are we going to see this in other aspects?
Yeah. So we talked to the company behind this, and they assured us that like we're not trying to go into your old favorite movies and just like insert a bunch of products.
That's what I was kind of getting at. Yeah.
It was funny. They told us like we put a MacBook Pro in Casablanca, and they're like two things we noticed. First of all, it looked awesome. Second of all, we're like we should never do this ever again. But the thing is like. I mean, yeah, if they're the only company doing it in the future and they have like good morals and they're like, let's not ruin old movies, then yeah, we'll probably be safe. But I highly doubt that they're going to be the only company working on this, a few years down the road.
Oh yeah, I could totally see something being added in, and that also means, if it starts with, say, it's movies that are coming out next year, we'll just use that for an example. That means forever they'll have these product spots that are within that movie. They can go and change out
just like
years
little
later.
Blank spots. Just like insert your brand here.
Right.
Which is why, I mean, it's on one hand, it's kind of like, oh God, that really sucks because they could potentially just fill all of our favorite shows with ads.
Right.
But at the same time, it's kind of interesting because what this would allow them to do is like target ads specifically toward users with like very specific interests. So they wouldn't have to go after these broad things like BMWs and Pepsi, like chips and all of that stuff. They could market very specific items directly to you, which means that little advertisers, not these giant Fortune 500 companies, could get their ads in movies and TV shows.
So it would open up the game, I guess, open it up for that. So would that be kind of a benefit, I suppose?
I mean, it'd be a benefit for advertisers. And I mean, it's not really a good thing for, for consumers, but like, it's kind of interesting because the whole like what they said is they wanted to be like Google Ads for the moving image.
Man.
So Google Ads, the way it works is they can target ads specifically at every individual user, and they want to do that in movies.
So would this be looking at it from that side too? And I don't know if we have the answer to that, but looking on the data collection issue, would it be something that's specifically targeted? Like, okay, we know you watch these movies. Generally, these people like Pepsi, so we're putting Pepsi in there. Or whatever.
It could be that. I imagine it would work very similarly to how internet ads work right now. It's like they know your history, they know what you're looking for, they know what products you have searched and are, might be considering buying in the future. They know what your friends are into. So there's just, all kinds of data points that they could mine this information from and use it to put in perfect photorealistic ads that you don't even notice are there.
I know one of the examples, I think that I read about anyway, was just an example of somebody playing a video game in a movie. They walk by them and they're playing a video game. Well, I'll sub that video game out for something else. There's another example right here just of you're playing Super Mario Kart. All of a sudden, boom, you've got, what is that, a Lexus?
That was a Mercedes.
Mercedes, sorry. I'm looking at it out of the side of my eye. But yeah, Mercedes, that you could just have that shown in, and that's specific to that person.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring up the video game angle because when we asked them, we're like, this sounds like a massive technical like undertaking, right?
Yeah,
like there's no way that you could show different content to different users all at the same time, like in a show that they're all watching, like say you're streaming it on Netflix. And he was like, no, you're absolutely wrong. Like this already happens. Like we're already doing this in video games. When people are playing a video game, they're all seeing different versions of the same thing depending on like where they're at in like an MMORPG or something like that. So technically speaking, all of this is completely and totally possible. They're just putting together all the pieces.
Wow. So when do we think this will be rolling out?
I mean, it's tough to say. They're kind of a small startup at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what their funding situation is like, but it seems like it has a ton of promise, so I wouldn't be surprised if somebody threw some early seed funding at them, and we started to see it pop up in some YouTube videos or
maybe YouTube
streaming
to start
sites.
until Netflix gets a hold of it, or with the whole television streaming wars, somebody's going to implement this soon.
I mean, I'm not going to hold my breath, but this seems like a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge. And you can read about this at Digital Trends as well. So this full article's up. It's really pretty amazing. Luke Dormel, shout out to him on some of this, just talking about it. And it's It's really, really amazing.
Yeah, check out the article if you haven't seen it yet.
Check it out, digitaltrends.com. Drew, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's always fun to be
joining.
here.
Always fascinating discussions. That's what we've been having all day long here on Digital Trends Live, and we have more coming up. So joining us here next, we're going to have Steve Potash from Sora by Rakuten Overdrive. I'll explain what that is. It's an app that is going to help open up and improve accessibility to reading materials for students and teachers and educators. Pretty cool what they're doing. We're going to discuss that and a whole lot more coming up here on Digital Trends Live. So drop in your comments, your questions. Back here in a minute with more DT Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live, continuing our discussion about the technology that affects our lives here on this show every single day. So hit that subscribe button to make sure you get the notifications when we do go live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and right now we're going to talk about the advent of technology in education and how it's changing the way we learn, how it's helping with that, how it helps gain accessibility, all kinds of things associated with that. And we have a great guest who's joining us to do just that. We have Steve Potash, who is the president and CEO of Sora by Rakuten Overdrive. Hello, Steve. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks, Greg. I appreciate the time.
Let's get into this and talk about how we're improving education and how tech is affecting it. To give everybody a little bit of a level playing field, can we talk about what Sora is and get an explanation of that?
Certainly. Well, Greg, Sora is the latest app from Overdrive. And many of your listeners, and hopefully yourself, are familiar with downloading an ebook or an audiobook from your local public library. Overdrive has been partnering with public libraries for over 15 years, enabling access anytime, anywhere to bestsellers, educational titles, books for adults, juveniles, business travelers. And just last year, for back to school, we introduced an app specifically designed to get students to read more. And that is what the new Sora app is all about.
And Overdrive, definitely familiar with that, and I've utilized it myself. I'm a big fan of audiobooks. It really is cool. I can get accessibility to all kinds of different materials that are out there, and really great on that aspect. And I'm curious with Sora in particular, targeting and helping children to learn more and get access to that. How exactly does the app do that? And then we'll maybe talk about why that's so important.
Certainly. Well, I think we'd like to start a little bit with the why. The why is we all know that literacy and reading is an absolute foundation for all educational pursuits, for all grades, all levels, whether it's pre-K and learning to read or during the course of a student's journey through the school, through K-12. So what the Sora app is based on the millions and millions of lessons learned from serving young readers and juveniles from the public library. We then went to the school market and interviewed curriculum coaches, literacy experts, educators of all types to say, we have access to all the digital books and we can make them show up on almost any device, anything with a screen or where earbuds would provide audio. How can we make this meaningful? And so what Sora does is allow a singular experience, whether the student's on an iPad, a Google Chromebook, a Windows tablet, or their own smartphone or their parent's device. Any device, they download the simple Sora app, and with their student ID, they are then directed to review the titles that are immediately available for them to enjoy. And those titles, just like you've experienced with an audiobook from the public library, they can listen to a book, they can read the text on the screen with a lot of customization, and in many cases, they can even do both. We've developed Sora for all grade levels to provide anytime, anywhere, instant access to books that either are assigned as part of their curriculum, or to encourage kids just to go discover, browse, and find books that they're excited to read on their own.
Which is great. I mean, that to encouraging reading or even listening to audiobooks, I think is fantastic. How are tech companies taking a look at the changing way that education is working and how much technology is being incorporated in just for kids? I mean, I've talked about it before on this show where what kids are learning right now, the world could be completely different in 10 years. The technology will change so much. So being able to adapt and work with that is so important. What are some of the inspirations that maybe from Overdrive that you've taken from technology that's being utilized now in developing Sora?
Well, thanks. And Greg, what I will say is, first of all, we're already coming into a classroom where most of the classrooms in the US now are what we call one-to-one classroom. The student is in the school and either they are told what device their parents should purchase and bring the first day of school, or when they walk into the classroom, they're handed a tablet provided by the school system or the district. So we're already walking into a classroom where technology is everywhere. The kids have their own devices for a variety of digital engagements and media, or smart boards are being used at the front of the room as part of blended learning with both physical and print and online and connected learning, whether it be web-driven or video or other assets. So we're already coming into an environment where the technology is there. What Overdrive has done is learn where we can make access to the book by the digital screen, either on the screen or through the audio, improve engagement with the reader. So first of all, just by having digital access, as you know from the library, the student has 24/7 access, whether they're in the building or we had an amazing amount of students engage in summertime reading. We had a summer reading program that thousands of schools participated. And over the summer, which would naturally be a time where students would drop off in their reading, we actually had tens of thousands of students compete in reading challenges just to read more and prepare for the upcoming school year. So first, it's the instant, anytime access to the technology. But even more than that, as you know, everything online now is personalized. And what the digital book and the Sora app allows is for us to get the right book at the right time to the right student. So just think of overcoming some of the challenges of managing a catalog of physical books that need to be going from building to building across a school district. Or even think about how every student may be reading at a little different level or have their own interests. The digital books in the Sora app allows that to adapt to the student. The book can be assigned to the particular student for the particular reason. Either we're about to study that in class, or there's a educator who's trying to encourage a student to continue with their literacy skills or vocabulary skills by assigning and putting on that Sora bookshelf the next few books that they're trying to encourage that student to open and enjoy.
Well, I think that inclusivity and just the ability to adapt, like you said, to each individual student, that's pretty incredible. And I can see that being a huge help to a lot of kids out there. For everybody out there who wants to download the app or utilize it, I guess just any app store, is that the best place to go? Anything else that they need to know, or just go down and get it?
Well, it is designed for students. So if anybody wants to get an app and download, enjoy award-winning children's books, read along, Marvel comics, you should go to your public library and download the free Libby app, because all you need is a library card. If you are a student, the Sora app is designed for you to connect to your school. So the Sora app isn't broadly open for anyone who's not, associated with a school offering ebooks to just use. That would be the public library app called Libby. But talking about how the technology is making a difference, it's not only that we can get the right book at the right time to the student who needs it, when they need it, it's also that the technology is providing some enhancements to allow students to better engage with the book content. So just think about all of the ranges of reading skills that starting from pre-kindergarten through high school. Every digital book in Sora, the fonts are customizable. We have the ability to instantly define and listen to a word, to pronounce a word, to bring up the embedded dictionary. Also, something that we pioneered, every title, students can utilize what's called a dyslexic font. We have a lot of readers with print disabilities, and by getting either the audio edition or this dyslexic font, educators are saying that it's making a difference and helping students of all ages, all levels. So those are other ways that technology is being impactful.
Well, it sounds like a great app, and definitely encourage everyone to check that out. And I want to say thank you so much for joining us here today, too, to discuss this. It's exciting finding out how education technology is changing, and certainly Sora is at the forefront of that. And Steve, thanks for joining us here on Digital Trends Live.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
So interesting information right there, and I know we have lots more interesting information that we have to get to. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. I've got some more news stories I want to bring you up to date on, including a Robo Racing League. I'll explain what that is. We've got more guests. Felicia Miranda is going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch Lite, her hands-on review. All of that's coming up. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thank you for joining us. I know I say that a lot, but I really do mean it. So drop in your comments, your questions. We're interactive, whatever you want to bring up. Do that and hit that subscribe button to get the notifications when we do go live. I've got some few news stories here I just want to get to you before we get to our next interview. And start off with this. SpaceX making another huge leap forward with their Starhopper spaceship. And they were able to do this yesterday. It's some tests they've been running. Now, the Starhopper, this isn't the same as the Crew Dragon capsule. The Starhopper is in particular the one that they're thinking could end up taking people to the moon or taking people to Mars for a little bit further down the road. This would be the ship that would do it, and this would have humans on board. And the key thing with this that they're trying to showcase here, as we're watching it right now, is that it can launch or land onto a planet or a surface and then launch back off again, land again, reusable. That's the key thing. And then it would hook up with another ship that would be in orbit around, say, Mars. Looking at it right now, it looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. They've done some other tests on this already. The last time going up to about 60 feet or so, 63 feet, I think, and then able to successfully land. This one went a lot further, went up to 492 feet above the ground, hovered for several seconds, and then came back down right onto the launch pad exactly where it had taken off, which is really an incredible, I mean, it seems like, I guess, in the grand scale of how much we see with space travel nowadays and how much different things that we get bombarded with, which is great, that it's not that big a deal. This is a pretty big deal. This is a really big test that they have accomplished, and it's going to be the last test, actually, that they're going to be doing with this to showcase that side of things. Looking at it going forward, they're looking at maybe, I believe it's 2021 is when they're going to start launching some actual real missions with the Starhopper. And the name alone, the Starhopper, is a pretty great name. But that's what it looks like. It looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. It does look, it almost looks like it's fake, like it's CGI, but it is not. That is something that they've been doing. So being able to go up 492 feet, land it back down, pretty huge, pretty exciting news for that. And this is something that we're going to be seeing in a couple of years when people are actually going to be on board of that. I think going around the moon is one of the first trips that they want to do. Some billionaires already paid for a trip on that thing. But that's the Starhopper from SpaceX, and so an exciting test for them yesterday. All right, a couple other things in the news that I want to bring you up to date. You can read about all of this at digitaltrends.com. You can take a look at everything that we're bringing up and talking about right there if you want to follow up with more information. This next one has to do with how we work. And this isn't a new product, but there is a new version of this product that is out. And it's the idea of telepresencing and being telepresenced. I'm not sure what the proper verb would be. Having a telepresence at work is something that's not new. I mean, we all use it in some kind of way, shape, or form. I'm sure Skype or Zoom or whatever. But there's other ways that people are looking at on how to interact with your coworkers. We had one of these here for a while. It's from a company called Double, and we have the Double 2. And essentially the previous one was an iPad on wheels. So you log in wherever you are remotely, and then your face pops up on that screen, and you can zoom around the office. This is the Double 3. So the additions of the Double 3 are that it has more in-depth sensors. It's got more ways you can tilt and zoom. You can add audio to it, and more sophisticated audio, and you can just point where you want to go. So this is looking from the viewpoint of somebody who's at home, maybe with their mouse. They just click and say, oh, I want to go there. You zoom around the office. You're on your little, not an iPad on wheels, but it's essentially what it is. It's like a little Segway. And that's how you walk around the office and interact with everybody. It's a pretty unique product. Kind of reminds me, that one right there, that's a great way that you can interact with people. It doesn't have any arms or anything, so you'd have to really knock into a door for a while to annoy some people. That's how I could see it being used. That's how we used it when we had it here. But that's one option. There is another option out there, and I'm just going to briefly make you aware of this. There's another way that people are looking at telecommuting, telepresencing in offices, and this is one that's coming from, I believe this is China where they're working on this. It's a bit of a different style where you actually have someone, it's called like a human Uber, is essentially what it is. The company's called Chameleon Mask, where you actually hire someone to walk around physically in the office, but with your face strapped to an iPad to the front. Look at this guy. He's very excited here. And you just pay someone to walk around and be your avatar, your living avatar, wherever you are. I don't see that being adapted a lot, but I do kind of want to get one here at the office and just to test it out. That way I could have somebody else sitting here. I could just do this show from home, and it'll just be, somebody else's body moving around. I think we can probably figure that out. But that's a different option. But that was talking about the double version right there. All right. The last story that I want to bring up, and then we're going to be going to our interview here, talking about also VR. Very excited about that. We have Justin Barad who's going to be joining us. Before that, though, the one other thing I wanted to bring you up to date on is something that I was unaware was happening, but it has to do with self-driving vehicles. That's something we bring up a lot on the show. Self-driving vehicles are not anything new, but self-driving vehicle racing league, that's a little bit different. So it's called the Robo Racing League, and it's actually in Great Britain right now. And there's some news associated with that in that everybody gets one car, and the way it works is you have programmers, and it's their job to program the vehicle to navigate this course in different ways, and that's how they win. So every vehicle has the same capabilities, but it depends on how the programmer is able to do it. And right now, they're getting so good at these that they're approaching the human records, the human driver records of being able to navigate these courses. In particular, there was one that just happened last month, and this is what's kind of making some news right now, where it's a very sophisticated course that you're on, obstacle course, and they got within 12 seconds of the current record for any driver, AI or human. It's a human driver that has that record. They think they can get it down to within 6 seconds, and they said after that, sky's the limit. Once they can get it nailed down to within 6 seconds. So it's all these different programmers show up, they get to work, they program the vehicle, and whoever does it the best, that's how they measure it and win it. They're very, very fast. It's pretty crazy, and I could definitely see this spreading around and going beyond just Great Britain. But that's the Robo Racing League. Wanted to make you aware of that. All right, continuing on with Digital Trends Live, and we are broadcasting live here every weekday, and we thank everyone who joins us for all of our programming. We get to have some really fascinating discussions, and we're going to be doing that right now. Joining us to talk about virtual reality, we have the CEO and co-founder of ASO VR. We have Justin Barad. Justin, thank you so much for being here on Digital Trends Live.
Oh, thanks for having me, Greg.
Really excited about the possibilities of virtual reality and where we can take it. And I feel like it's one of those technologies where there was a lot of promise. We didn't see a lot happen for a little while, and now we're seeing some really incredible things. And in particular, you've got a study, and I want to talk about ASO. And to give everybody kind of a level playing field, could we get a little bit of a background on what ASO VR is as a company, and then get into some more specifics?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is actually in video game development. I started out life interning at Activision, coding since middle school. And I got interested in healthcare when a family incident put my family member in the hospital. So I ended up actually becoming a doctor and specifically doing orthopedic surgery. And it was during my surgical training that I noticed firsthand that we were practicing these really complex procedures, not before we were in the operating room, but in there on people. And I'd be in a surgery at a computer frantically Googling or YouTubing what to do and kind of yelling out instructions to everyone else. And I really felt there had to be a better way where we could just practice these procedures so we knew what we were doing once we got to the operating room, a lot like you practice any sport or musical instrument. And so it was right around this time that virtual reality had sort of a renaissance with the Oculus Rift Kickstarter and this entire new generation of VR technology that was very affordable, very scalable, and highly immersive and realistic became available. And we decided, wow, we can use this technology to practice surgery anytime, anywhere. You can use your hands realistically, and you can simulate almost any surgery and also get objective feedback on how you're doing. So that's how ASO VR was born. It started in October 2016. It was a collaboration between me and Matt Newport, who's a professional game developer who left Electronic Arts to pursue serious VR. Since then, we've grown to 25 full-time employees. We're used in 11 countries. We train nearly 1,000 surgeons a month. We partner with 20 teaching hospitals and residency programs, as well as 7 medical device companies that are global. And so the background of the study is that it's sort of intuitive that VR could be used for this use case, that you could practice surgery or other medical procedures in virtual reality. But in the medical world, there was a lot of pushback. You know, you're holding these controllers that kind of look like Xbox controllers. This isn't what people think of when they're thinking of high fidelity surgical training. So a lot of people were skeptical that this would work. So we knew very early on that we'd need to do a scientific study to actually evaluate what kind of effect people were getting in terms of their ability to do surgery. Was it better after using VR? Was it about the same? Is there any difference with traditional training methods? So in this study, which was performed by UCLA, we took 20 people, 10 were trained in virtual reality to a level of proficiency so we could assess when they were ready. And then 10 were trained traditionally. And when I say traditionally, this is lectures, what we call technique guides, or basically textbooks and lists of the steps they need to do. Then they were evaluated on the actual surgical procedure on a physical model. They were filmed, and we had an observer who didn't know what training they had done rate them and how they did. And what we found was the virtual reality group performed 230% better than the non-VR trained group in that study, as well as 20% more efficient in that they were faster at doing the procedure, which is a much larger effect than we expected. But we're doing multiple studies and we're seeing sort of similar orders of magnitude. So this seems very repeatable.
Yeah, that's it. That's incredible. And so this is, again, we're talking about OSO VR and some of the different platforms that you've developed with this within the virtual reality. So talking about that side, I mean, I think that's an incredible study. I want to ask about the medical community as a whole, because you mentioned that there was a little bit of pushback originally with this. This study, I would imagine, probably mitigates some of that. But what are some of the different things that they're able to practice? Is it just like surgery of specific surgery practices, or when they're in that VR experience, what is that actually like?
Yeah, I mean, if you've used VR, it's one of those things that's hard to explain to people until you try it yourself. But
True.
when you're in the experience, you're very intuitively and naturally running through the procedure just like you would in real life. And this example you're showing here, this is an example of our ability to collaboratively train. So in an operating room, there can sometimes be 8 people at once, all doing different parts of the surgery, which are critical, and they need to coordinate. But oftentimes you've never worked with these people before. This is what a lot of people don't realize. So UCLA did a study. We found that there were 52 different anesthesiologists with a single surgical team over a month period and 25 different surgical techs. So the ability to rapidly train as a team is really critical. And so that's what this technology lets you do. So in this case, you're seeing someone act as my surgical tech. They're putting the equipment together, getting it ready for me, and then handing it over to me. And I'm just, using it on the patient just like I would in real life, very naturally and very intuitively. Theoretically, you could simulate any surgery with this technology, but we really right now focus on the orthopedic space. So what I'm doing here is a trauma procedure for broken bones where we put a titanium rod inside the bone to fix it. So if you ever see like really gruesome injuries for sports, this is a very common injury you may see where the shin bone pops out of the skin. This is the surgery used to fix that injury.
Okay, that's it. I was wondering what that surgery was for. I've seen those videos before. I try to avoid them, but this is now I understand how it's fixed. And it seems like such a tremendously valuable tool to use. I mean, to have somebody to be able to train like that. I had no idea that there's so many people on a staff, that have never worked before together. That seems like this would be a tremendous advantage. How have you seen it being adopted so far within the medical community and within, beyond just some of these trainings?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing usage and adoption go up very rapidly and in a very constant way. So every month we're adding more residency programs on the network. We're training people in more countries. We're adding more surgeons. It's the need for this technology is very great. So to give you an example of what's going on right now in our world, the way that surgeons learn to do surgery is after medical school, you do something called a residency, which is about 5 to 6 years where you're training, you're following other doctors around, you're watching them, you're spending half of your time at a computer, and then sometimes you're in the operating room watching people mainly. Sometimes you're doing a little bit of the surgery. And this used to work really well when there were only a few procedures to learn. But if you think about it, every year there are new procedures, new technologies that are adding on to the list of things that we need to learn. And these things are much more complicated. We have to do them 50 to 100 times to be able to perform them safely. And we have less time to learn. So the results are really actually quite shocking and a little concerning. A study done in 2017 out of University of Michigan showed that graduating residents after 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, 5 years of residency, 30.7% still could not operate on their own, which is a massive percentage, and that's only growing. And furthermore, we're facing a shortage of surgeons. So we can only train a limited number of surgeons. We have an aging, exploding population. We're not going to be able to meet their needs from a surgical perspective without intervening in some way in the sense of providing adequately trained surgeons. So just a little bit of example of how the data is really showing that the sort of traditional system of training no longer works. So when you show someone this technology in our world, they're like, it's like a breath of fresh air. They're like, oh my God, this is clearly the solution for this problem, where we can train everybody on a common set of technical skills, evaluate them, make sure it's safe for them to go off into the world. If you want to take anything away from this interview here, there's a really amazing podcast called Dr. Death, that's sort of ominously named, but it's a really extreme case of what happens when you don't actually check someone's technical skills. So a neurosurgeon goes off into the wild and harms a large number of patients and is now actually in jail because he was clearly not fit to operate. But in fact, another thing most people don't know is we are almost never assessed for how well we do surgery. And we only take multiple choice exams for the most part. So in my career, I was only ever evaluated one time. I was interviewing for a residency program, and they had me play the board game Operation to see how my hands work.
No,
And
that's how they assessed you?
100% true story. Hasbro or whoever makes that is not paying me to say that. I mean, certainly better than nothing, but clearly there is a need for an easy way to rapidly evaluate technical skills for all these different skills and procedures that we need to know as surgeons.
I'm pretty good at Operation, I'll admit, but I would not trust myself to do a surgery on that.
I don't even might have what it takes.
No, I can tell you I don't. Even the video made me squeamish. But I'm so glad that you are out there doing that. And Oso VR clearly needs to be everywhere, because once you've explained this to me now, this is so important. And what can people, just to take away, how can they learn more about Oso or just help spread the word of this in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, absolutely. We're a mission-driven organization. We have 3 parts of our mission: improving patient outcomes, increasing the adoption of higher value medical technologies like robotics, and democratizing access to surgical education. So if any of those 3 things interest you, please reach out to us. You can email me, justin@osovr.com, or you can come to the website, osovr, OSSOVR.com. Check it out. There's a bunch of contact forms and more information how you can get involved.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for being here on Digital Trends Live, really illuminating on how technology is being utilized. It's certainly something that needs to be utilized in this field, and really appreciate everything that you're doing with that.
It's been a total privilege. Thanks.
All right, that is just fascinating how that works. And now that I know a little bit more about how surgeons are tested, wow, we need more VR out there immediately. All right, we need to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to be joined by Felicia Miranda from our New York studio. She is going to be discussing the Nintendo Switch Lite and her hands-on review of that, which is up right now at Digital Trends. Get your questions ready. I know somebody's got some out there for the Nintendo Switch. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. And welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. We're live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. And we like to talk about all of the latest in technology. And the Nintendo Switch Lite has certainly been a trending topic over the last couple of days. And our own Felicia Miranda got her hands on it to test it out. We talked about it before it came out. I didn't know, we thought it would be pretty cool. Some of the ideas of it were pretty great. But now that you've been able to actually test this out, we're going to talk about it. So joining us now, hello, Felicia. How are you doing?
Hey Greg, I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. Let's talk about this Nintendo Switch Lite. So what can you give us for your first impressions?
So the Nintendo Switch Lite, just hearing about it, for me, I was very excited. I am a very handheld-oriented gamer. I like to game on the go. I don't really have a lot of time to sit down and play video games as much as I'd like to. So the thought of Nintendo putting out a handheld exclusive console really excited me. Last week I actually got to try it out. I got to play Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I got to play Mario Kart 8. And I came away really impressed. It feels great in the hands. I think that was the biggest takeaway for me, was that it feels really good to hold. There's no hand cramping or anything like that. And it's really cute. It's actually very grippable, very adorable in person, not just, when you're looking at the videos and things like that. And even though it's smaller, I would say that it's not so small that you feel like you're missing out. So yeah, overall, I feel like it was awesome hands-on time with it.
Reading your review, which is up at Digital Trends right now, there was a couple of takeaways, and I wanted to talk about some of those. You talked about how it feels really comfortable, and in particular, I think a lot of people were thinking about with that size, would they be able to make it? Is it fun to use, like the ergonomics of it? I know that the D-pad's coming back. Can you talk about the actual gameplay and what that's like versus the regular Nintendo Switch?
So yeah, the Nintendo Switch Lite, there are a few key things that are very different about it. So as we know, the regular Nintendo Switch has the Joy-Cons. The Switch Lite does not have that, so you won't get the HD rumble, you won't get the cool sensor that comes with the Joy-Cons. And, if that's something that you really like, then that's something that it won't have. You can purchase Joy-Cons separately and use them with the Switch Lite if that's something that you want to do, but it doesn't come with the Joy-Cons. It does have the D-pad, which is very exciting. I know a lot of people missed the D-pad on the Switch, and it does come back. So for those of you who like to play retro games or fighting games, that's definitely a welcomed back feature, and it definitely feels great. In my opinion, I was playing it with Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart 8, and I thought it felt pretty good for a D-pad, it's very portable. One thing I was worried about is comfortability, I guess, because for me personally, I'm not going to speak for everyone because everyone might have their own experience, but the Nintendo Switch Lite for me doesn't feel as good when you're holding it. It gets a little uncomfortable for me after a while, so with the Nintendo Switch Lite, I didn't get that feeling. I only had about an hour of hands-on time with it, but it felt really good. I felt like I could sit there and play, Breath of the Wild all day and not have to worry about, my fingers cramping or, getting carpal tunnel or anything like that. So yeah, it felt really good.
Well, looking at it from some of the aspects now, you mentioned, compared to the normal Nintendo Switch that you're worried about hand cramping. What were there any things like detractions from this that you wish they would have done differently or better out of this Nintendo Switch Lite?
So I do feel like there were a few missed opportunities. The Switch Lite has the exact same OS as the Nintendo Switch, which makes sense, but also I feel like if you have a handheld console, maybe add some features that cater to that. Like a lot of handheld gamers would probably like to have native chat, something that a lot of people have criticized the Nintendo Switch for lacking. You have to use your phone. Some games include it, but it has to be through via the developers. It's not something that Nintendo has added to their actual console. So I feel like that would have been nice because it's okay, it's a handheld, but then you have to default to using your phone if you want to chat. Seems like a lot of work for something like that. And it doesn't have Bluetooth audio, which I know for a lot of people is a big deal. For me personally, it isn't. I don't mind using wired headphones, but if you're talking about handheld gaming, some Bluetooth audio support would probably be really good native. You can buy accessories that can add that feature, but again, you're dishing out money to get that. So that's something to keep in mind if you're interested in the Nintendo Switch Lite. Lastly, it doesn't support every single Nintendo Switch game, but the list of games that it doesn't support is very small. It's like Just Dance and Nintendo Labo, and then there's a few others that rely on the Joy-Cons or tabletop mode, which the Switch Lite doesn't have the kickstand, so you can't set it up when you're playing it like you would the regular Switch. You would probably have to invest in a stand or something like that. So those are all things that you should consider. Again, the list of games that it doesn't support is very small. So unless you're really interested in things like Nintendo Labo and Just Dance and 1-2 Switch and ARMS, then you might not be missing out on much.
Well, the review is pretty glowing of it. I definitely want to try it out, and I'm excited, to get my hands on one of them. And Felicia, thank you so much for testing it out for all of us and letting us know your thoughts on it, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that is Felicia Miranda. Check out the review, digitaltrends.com, hands-on review. She's always on top of it, and a really in-depth review of it and what her thoughts are on the benefits and the detractions from it. So check that out there. And I want to thank everybody who's joined us today, both you watching and our guests today. Of course, Dan Gall in here, always fun. He always gets me to go over on time. So Dan Gall, so much fun when he's here on the show. We had Rehan Jalil, the founder and CEO of Security.ai. Really interesting talking about that California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, how it's going to affect us all. If you missed that interview, go back and watch that. Drew Prindle in here talking about that Riff advertising platform, the way that advertising could be changing with product placement being able to be switched out on a whim. We had Steve Potash from Sora with the Sora, the new app by Rakuten Overdrive. An app to help increase inclusivity in education and reading. And we had Justin Barad from Oso VR, really illuminating interview. Definitely go check that out if you have not watched that one. We really thank Justin for joining us here today. I want to say tomorrow we've got a special guest, a lot of special guests, but one in particular I want to let you know about. If you're a fan of the Indy 500, if you're a fan of Grand Prix, if you're a fan of racing, if you're a fan of Indy cars, we're going to have Takuma Sato, the winner of the 2017 Indy 500, is going to be here in studio with us. So mark your calendars for that. Remember that and hit that subscribe button so you get the notification when we do go live, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. And that's just part of what's coming up tomorrow. We'll have a full slate of programming. I want to thank everybody who joined us. We'll be back tomorrow with more Digital Trends Live.